Welcome to Weekly Digest, where we highlight the work of ministers of government as they push the administration's development agenda. Picking up from where we left off last week, several ministers of government returned to flood-ravaged communities in Region 3 on Saturday to distribute hampers to affected residents. Minister of Education, the Honourable Priya Manikchan, Minister within the Ministry of Public Works, the Honourable Deodat Indar, and Minister of Human Services and Social Security, the Honourable Vindhya Prasad, all met with affected residents.
Please know that you will not be left alone. You will not be left alone. We're going to look at how we can repair economically and otherwise the damage that would have been caused to you. All right, so we just want to briefly tell you that, so that you don't worry and distress yourself unnecessarily.
Namrik, Potential, Vriesland and Bell West were some of the communities visited. The interventions followed President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali's visit to communities to assess the flood damage. Minister of Health, the Honourable Dr. Frank Anthony, has urged Guyanese to cultivate healthier eating habits, as he notes that chronic non-communicable diseases are oftentimes caused by inactivity and poor nutrition. Minister Anthony was at the time speaking at the launch of the Shade House Vegetable Garden and Mini Fruit Farm at the Cheshire Homes, a project initiated and executed by the Rotary Club of Garden City, Georgetown.
When we look at persons and how much they walk and exercise and so forth, that has been reduced. And I wouldn't challenge anybody here today to ask how many of you have done 30 minutes of exercise for the day. The Center of Disease Control have advised that everyone should do at least 30 minutes of exercise every day so that you can stay healthy. Most persons don't do it. And so over time, you have all kinds of other problems that develop within your body. And those can lead to chronic non-communicable diseases.
Minister Anthony said studies conducted by the International Diabetic Federation also revealed that approximately 60,000 people in Ghana are affected by diabetes. The Ministry of Labour's Board of Industrial Training, BIT, is investing over $40 million in 29 technical and vocational training programs in Region 6, targeting some 400 persons. Minister of Labour, the Honourable Joseph Hamilton, during a recent 3-day outreach in East Berbice Quarantine, said government will ensure BIT reaches every community. He also urged residents to capitalize on the opportunities.
We are doing different things. BIT, as I saw it, focus was primarily, I saw it as Georgetown, Region 4, that was the center of everything for me. Every part of the country is the center right now. Richard will tell you, from August to now, every village actually I've gone to in this country, in every region. Doing the same thing, pleading with people to use the opportunity to use the moment. Because BIT is for Orial and Siparuta, it's for the Quarantine, it's for the Pakaraman Mountains, wherever Guyanese are. Acquire all the skills you can get. Because the world that you face, those who have one skill set will become dinosaurs. Cannot survive this world the next 5, 10, 15 years. So when you have opportunity to gain more and different skills, you must do it. So if one skill set is not working out for you to take care of you and your life and your family, you can turn to something else.
On Saturday, Minister of Natural Resources, the Honourable Vikram Bharat, attended a tree planting exercise in observation of World Environment Day, where he said the mangrove restoration project will be resumed. The event was hosted by the Indian High Commission at the Promenade Gardens, Georgetown.
The mangrove project, if I may say quickly, is a project that was started under our administration before 2015 election. And this is something that we will continue as in the next couple of years.
The PPPC government, with support from the European Union, restored 5 kilometres of mangroves along the east coast of Demerara, west coast of Berbice and Quarantine coast. Meanwhile, Minister Bharat is encouraging current and prospective investors to work with Ghana to develop its oil and gas sector. He was at the time addressing the opening ceremony of the launch of the Saipan, Guyana's offshore construction facility on Saturday.
Partner with us and let us ensure that benefits are derived to every single Guyanese throughout our beautiful country. We as a government, we need to build capacity, not only to ensure that there is workers in the technical managerial sectors in the oil and gas field, but build capacity within our local businesses so that we can compete regionally and internationally, so that we can provide goods and services that many other countries can provide at the same standard and at a competitive price too.
Minister Barrett said investors have a partner in the government as they seek to develop Guyana's oil and gas sector. Minister of Public Works, the Honourable Bishop Juan Edgell, on Tuesday conducted an assessment of the ongoing road project in the Sheriff Street, Mandela Avenue area. During his assessment, the minister visited the Rubis gas station at East La Penitence and the John Finance Container Terminal and Edward Bihari Company Limited on Mandela Avenue to resolve matters surrounding the future use of the road. At the gas station, the minister engaged the owner on a proposal submitted to have a break in the median along the 4-lane Sheriff Mandela roadway once it is completed.
There will be no braking in the median at the gas station. It's not going to be allowed. It's not going to be safe because people are going to be cutting across a 4-lane traffic to head north or to head south. It's not going to make sense.
Minister Edgell said an 88-foot reserve between John Finance and Bihari will be upgraded to allow traffic headed west and east. He said economic activity will not be hindered. Minister of Amerindian Affairs, the Honourable Pauline Sukai, handed over 2 checks totaling $3.5 million to Philippi Village Region 7 for the construction of 2 school-based canteens. The canteens would be built in Philippi at a cost of $2 million and its satellite waylaying at a cost of $1.5 million.
We also brought with us for Philippi the $2 million check for the construction of the village canteen. That's a proposal which I think the previous council had proposed. And every proposal, the ministry expects that the village would have given the approval for that project to come to us.
Minister Sukai also handed over 2 sewing machines to the village leaders for the start-up of a garment construction business. She said this will boost the village's economy. The minister also handed over a 40-horsepower engine, a weeding machine, and a quantity of forks, hoes, and cutlasses to the community. Minister Sukai also conducted flood assessments in several villages in the Upper Mazaruni area where over 700 households have been severely affected.
We are firstly looking at people's safety with respect to the high waters. We're looking at people's food security and, of course, of their health.
On Tuesday's COVID-19 update, Minister Anthony said the government is currently engaging the supplier of the Sputnik V vaccine to see how fast the shipment of second doses could be delivered.
We have already paid for these second doses. It's just a matter of getting the supply into Guyana. Hopefully, we'll either get that by the end of this week or maybe early next week.
On Monday, Guyana received 100,000 first doses of the vaccine at the Chedi Jagan International Airport. Minister within the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for public affairs, the Honourable Kwame McCoy, has assured residents in communities along the Demerara River that the government is committed to bringing relief to every household impacted by the countrywide flooding. Accompanied by a minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water, the Honourable Susan Rodriguez, Minister McCoy first stopped at Susanna's Rust on Wednesday, where he noted that Guyana is experiencing the adverse effects of global warming, but that government will continue to undertake mitigation and relief efforts at all levels.
Supplies, but also interventions in cleaning and clearing canals and trying to attend to cocas that might have been in state of disrepair and a number of other interventions, so that we could protect people, especially from their house being flooded, and to protect the farms and the animals and so forth.
Minister Rodriguez echoed these sentiments, noting that many countries are currently facing effects of climate change.
It's a double whammy that we're getting. It's the rainfall compounded by the high tides that has caused the water levels to rise. And it's affecting Guyana, it's affecting our neighbors, Suriname, Venezuela, Brazil. So it's a phenomenon that we have to deal with as part of the climate change.
The ministers also visited Dora Village, Lowood, and Sandhill before wrapping up at Community Creek. On Wednesday, Minister Manik Chan visited several schools around the city as the mock exams for the National Grade 6 assessment got underway. Visits were conducted to the Graham's Hall Primary School, North Georgetown Primary School, and Stella Maris Primary School, where hundreds of Grade 6 students wrote science and English papers 1 and 2. The Education Minister said despite the pandemic and the associated challenges, she is pleased with the guidelines that were implemented to ensure students remain safe.
Students were appropriately distanced. They were wearing their masks, some of them masks and shields. On their desks were the hand sanitizers that we provided and that their parents provided, because I saw some of them with 2. They were properly lined up, distanced when we went in the mornings, and we checked at lunch. There was no big gathering that could contribute to community spread. The teachers were very cognizant of the protocols that they had to follow.
While the ministry has allowed students to write the mock exams at home if they so desire, the minister said they will not be allowed to write the actual examinations at home or online due to issues surrounding credibility and integrity. On Thursday, the students sat the mathematics and social studies papers 1 and 2. Government intends to utilize its industrial estates to ensure economic activities are taking place and jobs are created. Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, the Honourable Unuj Walran, made this statement on Wednesday during a site visit to the Culligan Industrial Estate on the east coast of Demerara.
We're going to be visiting each industrial estate, and the idea is to come and see how the estate has been managed, to regularize the activities, all with the interest of making sure that productivity is maximized here on the estates in the interest of job creation.
During the visit, the minister engaged tenants on their concerns to have them addressed. The minister also noted that the government wanted to see a revitalized manufacturing sector so that enough jobs were created and provided for Guyanese. Meanwhile, Labour Minister Hamilton led a team of technical officers to the communities of Lovelylass, Blairmont and Ithaca Region 5, where he urged residents to capitalize on the learning opportunities being offered through the Board of Industrial Training, BIT. Minister Hamilton said the meetings are aimed at identifying the training needs of residents.
As minister, with a training arm that I'm responsible for, I'm giving you a commitment this afternoon that we will help you, we will support your work. We can properly develop programs in Blairmont to train young people.
Prime Minister, the Honourable Brigadier Retired Mark Phillips, says over 29,000 households have been affected by the recent heavy rainfall and flooding across the country. In the National Assembly on Thursday, the Prime Minister noted that based on latest seasonal reports, it is estimated that the country will continue to experience above normal rainfall until August. However, he noted that the government is putting systems in place to deal with any effects.
Mr. Speaker, in the wake of these devastating conditions, the Civil Defense Commission has been exceedingly active in its shelter management, evacuation, and relief distribution efforts across Guyana. Mr. Speaker, for as long as these conditions remain on the land, the CDC, in collaboration with other agencies, will continue to ensure that timely assessments and responses are done in keeping with the processes set out in our regional disaster risk management plan.
The Prime Minister also noted that the government is in contact with the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and other regional and international stakeholders to enhance support for those affected. The Minister of Health on Thursday told the National Assembly that over 297,490 doses of COVID-19 vaccines had been administered. Of that figure, 81,729 persons have been fully immunized. Minister Anthony said this represents 10.6% of the total population or 16.8% of the country's adult population.
As of yesterday, 72.5% of persons 60 years and older have had at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. In terms of the elderly population, this represents one of the highest rates of first-dose vaccine for elderly population anywhere in the world.
With Ghana hoping to achieve herd immunity at the earliest possible time, the health minister noted that the government is hopeful that every person will return for their second dose. Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport, the Honourable Charles Ramson Jr., on Thursday told the National Assembly that some 20 sports grounds are slated to receive upgrades during 2021.
We are for all Guyanese. All Guyanese. Reliance, $10 million. Queenstown, $10 million. Affiance, $10 million. CI, $10 million. Tushen, $10 million. Metamirzorg, $10 million. Zealot, $10 million. Zeeburg, $10 million. Good Fortune, $10 million. Success, $10 million. Buxton, $10 million. Enterprise, $10 million. Better Hope, $10 million. I'm not finished this yet. I have to turn the page. And more, $10 million. Bad Settlement, $10 million. Blairmont, $10 million. Bushlot, $10 million. Cotton Tree, $10 million. Port Morant, $10 million. Lime Park, $10 million. Rose Hall, $10 million. Rose Hall Kanji.
In addition to upgrading the grounds, the ministry will be constructing mini stadiums in regions 2, 6, and 10. These will be located at Anna Regina Community Centre, Albion Community Ground, and the Mackenzie Sports Club. Prime Minister Phillips has assured residents of Malali and Muritaro Region 10 that the administration will strongly support the recovery efforts of communities severely affected by flooding.
You have a government that is a caring government. We will continue to be very supportive of you during this time, what we consider to be the relief operation. After the water would have receded and life started to go back to normal, we go into what we call the recovery phase.
Prime Minister Phillips said in addition to the flood and cleaning supplies that would be given to residents, medical teams will also visit the communities to conduct medical checks and administer COVID-19 tests and vaccines. Meanwhile, Works Minister Edgell, who accompanied the Prime Minister, noted that the country is facing a national disaster and as such, a national relief effort is being undertaken with no preferential treatment.
This is not about politics. This is about humanity. Right, Tushel? And in times like these, when we reach out and we bring relief in a non-discriminatory manner, it ain't got nothing to do with who you vote for. It's that you're a Guyanese. And this is a crisis that all of us are faced with.
Foreign Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mr. Robert Bissad, on Thursday held discussions with Canada's High Commissioner to Ghana, His Excellency Mark Berman, on trade and investment between the two countries. Mr. Bissad said discussions, which took place at the ministry during a courtesy call, included the export of Guyanese products. Investment opportunities in Ghana for Canadian businesses, diaspora engagement, and air travel were areas that also featured in the discussions. The towns of Mabaruma, Madia, and Letem for the first time will benefit from trained firefighters who will man the newly built fire stations in regions 1, 8, and 9. Minister of Home Affairs, the Honourable Robeson Ben, made the announcement on Friday at the Guyana Fire Services graduation exercise. He said this is a fulfillment of government's commitment to building the capacity of the fire service through investment in assets and personnel.
The manning of these fire stations will be done by these young people. And since these young people come particularly from these communities, much would be expected from them in relation to the tasks for which they have been trained. In protection of homes, in preventing fires, in preventing destruction of property.
Minister Ben said the expansion of the fire service is to ensure loss of life and assets in the outlying communities is addressed.
I have said before to some people that the houses of people in the interior also burn, and there's loss of life and assets, grievous loss with respect to fire. And so this response by the government is designed to reduce, to mitigate, to prevent those losses. And so the question has to be, too, that we should not take a narrow view of where particularly we are, but since this is a new beginning, you may be the only asset, the only response that we have initially in respect of these incidents in these remote communities.
Also on Friday, the Ministry of Agriculture signed over $450 million in contracts to offset critical drainage, irrigation, and other initiatives within the agriculture sector. Through the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, $141.8 million will be spent to improve drainage within specified areas. This comes as government continues to make prudent steps to bring immediate relief to citizens affected by countrywide flooding. Works will be undertaken in some of the most affected regions, including Region 3, 5, and 6. Minister the Honourable Zulfikar Mustafa said the government is serious about bringing relief to residents and contractors must deliver on time.
We will not extend the time of contracts because as I mentioned at previous contract signing, that we want to ensure that we complete our work program. We want the work to be done to standard. You must observe all the specification. And also, we want the work to be done within the time span.
The Agriculture Minister noted that while expediency is critical at this time, it does not mean that substandard works will be accepted. The MV Barima set sail again on Friday last after repairs were conducted to rectify engine issues that developed on its journey to Region 1 on Wednesday. Minister Edel met the captain of the vessel to assess its readiness to travel and to update him on the measures being taken.
We have engaged MACORP, and I've been getting reports on what is happening. Yesterday evening, I took the intervention one step higher by having the chairman of the board of Transport and Harbors, Ms. Rosalinda Rasool, to personally intervene to make sure that things are moving.
He noted, too, that this is part of the reason why government made provisions in its 2021 budget for the sector.
Since we came into office, we accelerated the work to get the new vessel for Northwest, which has been funded through the government of India, to be on the go. The good news is we have already signed the contract, work has begun, and we expect that vessel within 16 months because it's an 18-month contract.
The minister also apologized for the inconvenience caused and offered all passengers aboard the vessel at the time it encountered issues a free round-trip journey from Region 1 to Georgetown. Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance, the Honourable Dr. Ashni Singh, has presented to the National Assembly the $22.5 billion loan document for the construction of the Linden-Mabura Hill Road. Minister Singh told the House the loan agreement for the 121-kilometre thoroughfare was signed on February 24 between the government and the Canadian Development Bank. The road project ranks high on the PPPC administration's development agenda as it will transform travel between Region 10 and the hinterland. Construction is expected to begin during the last quarter of 2021 and last until 2024. On April 15th, 18 contractors submitted pre-qualification documents for the project. The US $190 million road is being funded jointly by the CDB, the United Kingdom, and Guyana. The UK is providing US $66 million and Guyana the remaining US $12 million. Meanwhile, Minister Hamilton says the government is working to eliminate child labour across the country with a view of having 0 cases by the end of 2025. The minister was at the time speaking at the launch of Child Labour Month, which was held on Friday under the theme, Act Now, End Child Labour.
We cannot allow the fight against child labor to regress. The COVID-19 pandemic is having a huge impact on people's lives and livelihoods. Unfortunately, children are often the first to suffer, and this crisis can push vulnerable children into child labor. The elimination of child labor in all its forms is essential and a priority for the government of Guyana. It believes that the time has come to end child labor, and therefore it is time to accelerate the pace of the progress that we have made.
On Friday, Minister of Housing and Water, the Honourable Colin Crowell, announced that the government will be conducting a feasibility study for the construction of a new water treatment plant to serve the east coast of Demerara. Minister Crowell was at the time engaging residents of the Hope Lowland community after the well collapsed in that area. This resulted in residents receiving poor water quality in their homes.
From that study, if all things go successful, then obviously we get the necessary funding to put a treatment plant to service from Mahaika that goes all the way down to maybe about
just before end.
By the lower end of East Coast.
As it relates to the well at Hope Lowland, Minister Crowell explained that efforts are being made to add the approximately 700 households to the system at neighbouring Clonebrook village. That's it for this edition of Weekly Digest. For these and other government-related information, do log on to our website, dpi.gov.gy, and our social media platforms as well. Goodbye.